Hello, it's the weekend and it's time for my May wrap up. And because I read 35 books this month, I'm doing another lightning wrap up. So I'm not going to talk about it. Plus I have nothing to say about a few of these books, so I really just don't want to wrap them up. So we're just going to do it lightning round style. And I have yet another timer, and I just want to show you guys, it's like a real timer. I downloaded an app on my computer. And it's gonna work every time I tested it, so we don't have to mess around. As usual, I'm gonna be starting with my least liked books all the way up through my most liked books. I have a lot of audiobooks and ebooks this time around, so this is not everything I've read. This is just everything I have a physical copy of. So let's go. We're just gonna get into it. Okay, so DNFs first. First book is not really a DNF. It's Phoenix Unbound by, oh shoot, what's her name? I don't remember her name right now. I have 33 to 33 seconds. In short, I DNF'd it because the library took it back from me and I have to wait for it to come. Oh, Grace Draven, that's the author's name. I have to wait for the library to give it back to me. I was doing the audio and I got like 15% in. I was distracted by a lot of other books and I wasn't paying attention. So usually I'm better at paying attention to when my audiobooks are going to, you know, expire and go away and stuff, but I wasn't paying attention this time and I'm paying the price. It was good, the 15% of it it was good. I hope that bell is okay. Somebody last time told me that their dog doesn't like dinging sounds, so that was like a ship's bell. All right, next up is Arrow's Flight by Mercedes Lackey. This is the second book in the first trilogy in her very long Valdemar series. And I really liked the first book when I read it last year, and so I wanted to keep going. And I got like halfway through and I just said, I can't do this right now. This isn't a DNF forever. This is just a DNF for now. I'm not in the mood for this. I had so many other books and audiobooks that were calling my name, and I just was feeling resentful when I was listening to it, and I didn't want to feel resentful. I want to be in the mood for it. So put it down. We'll pick it back up later. By the way, this is a fantasy series that I can't even explain it. The main character is a young girl and we watch her growing up and learning how to be a herald. And she has a horse companion that talks to her in her head. And then my last DNF is Stolen Pieces by S.K. Golden. This was an arc. I feel bad about it, but at the same time, like, the more books I read and the more I embrace DNFing, it's freeing because this book was not fun. I was not having a good time while listening to it. I didn't like the audiobook narrator. She gave this kid, I probably would have done a 3-star read if I would have read it in hardcover, but the audiobook narrator made it really unpleasant. There's a child character of the main character, and it was the most annoying voice I'd ever heard in my life in an audiobook, and I couldn't do it. And I wasn't liking the story that much either, so it was just like we're gonna stop. Didn't work for me. I will continue to pick up books from the author though, because I enjoy her other series. So now let's do my 2-star reads. I had 2 of them. So no 1-stars. But honestly, I could have probably persuaded myself to give both of these 1 star and not felt bad about it, but we'll get into it. So the first one is A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay. I loved the one that he published in 2022. I don't remember the name of it right now. And so I was like, well, I got to read his other stuff. So this is the one I picked. It's about a family whose 14-year-old daughter is seemingly possessed, and her family starts to fall apart as a result. I have now learned that, and there's a reality TV element where her mom sort of like sells them out for money to save the house, and then put her daughter's possession on national television. And it was very salacious and overblown. And I just hated it because I don't like possession stories. It's something I've learned about myself. It was a well done book. It was well written. I couldn't find fault with it other than it was trying a little hard. I just hated it. I just hated it. Can't Spell Treason Without T by Rebecca Thorne. I'm so upset about this one. I'd seen some bad reviews for it. It's a cozy fantasy. The author was inspired by Legends and Lattes. That could not be more obvious, but she learned the wrong lessons from Legends and Lattes. She took the surface level elements of the lesbian couple making a cozy shop and a life for themselves, but she didn't get the important bits, which is the characters, the writing style, the story. I was so uninterested in this book. It was tell not show. It was too long, and what was there was nothing. I felt nothing for these people, and I didn't care about their romance at all, and I wasn't cozy. I have 1 2.5 star book. Should move this over here so that it's easier. Actually, should I prop it up? I don't have anything to prop it up on. It's fine. It's fine. Okay, so my 2.5 star book, and I'm being generous because it was well written and this is just very much not my thing, is The Land of Milk and Honey by C. Pam Zhang. And this is a book club pick. I'm sorry, Sarah. I really didn't, this is not my thing. And actually, I listened to the audiobook, but I only really paid attention to like the first 15-20%. And then I just checked out emotionally because I was very uninterested. I should have DNF'd it, but it was a book club pick and I wanted to at least finish it. And I just had it on the background as background noise. But anyway, I was like, I didn't like the voice. I don't like the literary fiction. I didn't like the attitude behind it. And there was this one scene in this kitchen because she's the chef and she was describing strawberries, and the way she described it honestly made me feel like I was going to throw up. It was nasty. I have to try. I forgot to put my timer. Okay, well, we're done. That was my 2.5 stars. So now we're at 3 stars. It told me that I can't create timers. Those I have to pay $1.99 for 300 timers. Excuse me. I'm mad. Okay, 3-star books. Okay, now, first up, oh, I got distracted. Head full of ghosts. Can't spell treason without T. One of these days I'll get one of these videos right without things going wrong. Next up is a manga. This is Cherry Magic, 30 Years of Virginity Can Make You a Wizard. Exactly what it is. This guy, he is a 30-year-old virgin in Japan, and apparently in this world, when you reach the age of 30, the god of whatever bestows upon you the gift of reading people's minds so you can know how much people love you. But anyway, in the office setting, he finds out that his coworker is in love with him. And it's the start of their, apparently it just chronicles their romance. I did not like the translation of this. It was very awkward. I didn't feel the gooey feelings that other people are feeling. I picked it up because it sounded silly and fun, but I didn't get the silly and fun feelings. It just felt weird to me. So just 3 stars. Okay. I don't like that beeper. I don't like that beeper. It's fine. I can't find it. I can't find another one. Next up is The Only One Left by Riley Sager. I have a whole reading vlog. I will link it down below for this video, for that video. And yeah, it was fine. It was 3 stars. The twists, I mean, it was entertaining and it kept me flipping pages because I wanted to know what happened, but it was kind of an empty reading experience. Didn't like the characters, didn't get any meaning out of it, didn't get any feelings from it other than like curiosity. And even that in the end was sort of a bust when there were so many twists by the end that they all just lost their emphasis. So I was just like, eh. I did like it better than the last book I read from Riley Sager. Why? Timers hate me. Timers hate me. 3 stars. Next up was an ebook. This is Six Scorched Roses by Carissa Broadbent. This is book 1.5 in the Crowns of Nyaxia series. First book was Serpent in the Wings of Night. It's a world where vampires predominate and humans are minorities, and the main character, well, whatever. It's set in that world. But this is like a novella set across the sea with separate characters that we meet in the first book, but it's their love story, and it was fine. It was kind of like a mishmash of a plague story versus like Beauty and the Beast-ish, but I just thought it was too short. I thought it was underdeveloped. Their romance happened too quickly, and I thought that the ending was pretty predictable, and I think it wanted me to be surprised. Okay, next up is the audiobook of Sociopath by Patrick, I think it's Gagne. This book was a crazy listen, and you should listen to it if you're interested. The author narrates her life in the context of her being a sociopath, and a good portion of her life she has, according to her, devoted to learning about sociopathy and how to treat it, which there's no way to treat it, apparently. And so it goes into a lot about sociopaths and what it is and what it means and her personal experience of it. As a book as a whole, I just have to be skeptical about it and I had a hard time listening to it, so it wasn't like one of those reads that I, could just breeze through. She's a liar. That's what I was gonna say. So you gotta suspend some disbelief. I just broke my own rule, but I don't care. I had to say that. 3.5 star books. First up for the 3.5 star books, we've got Blackwater Falls by Asma Zahanat Khan. I listened to this on audio. I really liked the audio narrator a lot, and she probably got me through the book a lot faster, but this is a book about a Muslim police detective and her navigating, trying to help the Muslim community in her small town and, you know, make things safer for them from the inside. It doesn't shy away from the feeling that most people have about cops, which was interesting, but it does also feature the murdering of Muslim girls in this town. And it was interesting. I'm not sure if I'll continue the series, but I'm not mad that I read it, and I thought that it was pretty good for a mystery series, even if I'm not going to find it emotionally memorable. Okay, next up is Four Lost Cities by Annalee Newitz. This one started out really strong, and I was really into it for the first like 2.5 cities, because there's 4 cities in here. There is Catalhoyuk in central Turkey, there's Angkor in Cambodia, Pompeii, and Cahokia, which is a city that I didn't even know existed in America near St. Louis. Apparently there was a huge city here, and we never learned about it in school. Anyway, this was very nerdy. It was very well researched, but I did lose interest in all the buildings and the non-people that it was talking about. And it just, you know, it was fine. I liked it. Okay, next up is Mother-Daughter Murder Night by Nina Simon. People are calling it a cozy mystery. It is not a cozy mystery. Okay, cozy mystery is a very specific thing. It is not a mystery that feels cozy. That is not a cozy mystery. Okay, sorry, I'm very pedantic. You're just gonna have to deal with it. This is not cozy though. This opens up with there's a grandma, a mom, and a daughter. It advertises itself as Gilmore Girls. This is not Gilmore Girls. These people are not warm and fuzzy with each other. And the grandma, who is the best character, opens the book by getting brain cancer, which is also lung cancer. And she's very sick, and she has to move in with her daughter and her granddaughter. And they don't have a great relationship, and they live on a slough, and there's a murder. I don't know how to say slough. Slow? It's a thing in California. Anyway, it's not cozy, and it was fine. Hope you guys don't care that I cheat on this all the time. Next up was an audiobook, Canadian Boyfriend. I talked about this in a previous video. I put it down for like the perfect moment so I could really listen to it when I was in the mood for it. And this is a book that was duet style narration with Joshua Jackson. And I don't remember the name of the female narrator, but the main plot of the book is it's a romance where this girl, when she was very young and socially isolated because she was a ballerina with a sort of emotionally abusive mom, stage mom, she just made up a boyfriend so that people would leave her alone. And he was based on a real person that she met at her job in a coffee shop in the mall. And then, oh, lo and behold, in her adult life, like 15 years later, she's teaching his daughter in dance class, and they cross paths. And I didn't tell you anything about how I felt about it, but okay, no. We're gonna cheat, because I have to say this. So I liked this book, and I really think the author did a great job taking their journeys and their emotional arcs seriously, but I also had a really hard time believing that the main male character would get that mad at the female character for not telling him that she met him one time 15 years before and then based a fictional boyfriend off of him. Like that's just not a big deal. It's not, and he makes it out to be like this huge betrayal. And I'm like, dude, it's not even yet. Like, it just made no sense to me. But the rest of the book was good, so that's why I gave it 3.5 stars. Sorry for cheating. I'm not gonna cheat anymore in this video. The timer goes off, I'm done. Dungeon Crawler Carl. This was an extremely fun lit RPG novel about a guy at the end of the world who, by happenstance, is outside with his girlfriend's cat. When the world ends, aliens come, they destroy everything, and they open up staircases to this dungeon that they've been building secretly for years. And it's a game. They have to basically, all the remaining humanity has to participate in this game. And aside from this one scene that was horrifically fat-phobic and a little bit misogynistic, and I don't think it was handled very well, I think he was going for something he didn't get, it was very fun, and I'm definitely continuing the series. That scene really threw me though. Like for a while, I was just really soured on the whole experience because I couldn't figure out what he was going for, and it was very problematic. But the rest of it was, I didn't set my timer. Dungeon Crawl Carl. Oh, talking cat character, also a player in the game. Audiobook amazing. Sorry, there's no timer, so I can just keep talking. I lied earlier, didn't I? Okay, let's go. I'm gonna make sure it's going. I started my reread of The Dark Tower, starting with The Gunslinger. I gave this 4 stars the first time I read it because I let the second half oops, I let the second half of the book, which is great, inform my rating, but I forgot how much I disliked the first half of the book. It's just as a reading, and then it also is very clear that he didn't quite know where it was going yet, even though he went back and edited a little. This is actually the revised version, but it's just, to be fair, and having read the rest of the series, this is very clearly a lesser, it's necessary but lesser output from the rest of the story. So yeah, I gave it 3.5 stars because, yeah. The underside of my knees are sweating and Lily's right here, so I'm just gonna rest the underside of my sweating bug. Sorry, I'm really distracted today. Next up, we have The Apology by Jimin Han. I recommend this book, that's why I gave it 4 stars, but it did have some debut author problems, I thought, although I'm not actually sure this is a debut, but it felt a little bit like a debut. It was very charming. It's narrated by a 105-year-old Korean woman. It's about Korean culture, Korean family, and the ways in which that clashes with other things. And the main character is a ghost, but before she's a ghost telling us this story, she has to go to America to stop her great-grandson from marrying her sister's great-grandson or something like that. Anyway, she has to stop an incest wedding. And I really liked it. I was charmed by it, but it wasn't perfect. Did I say this is 4 stars now, by the way? Yes, I did. Okay, next up was a reread. This is Jasper Ford's Shades of Grey. They subtitled it The Road to High Saffron after 50 Shades of Grey came out. But anyway, this is a dystopia, but it's a very silly dystopia. It's hard to explain, but everything is to do with colors. And he just highlights how absurd social constructions can be, because the way that the things they care about in this book and the way they organize their society is absurd. And it's just really clever. And I will say that I liked it better the first time I read it, just because it turns out a lot of the fun is like getting the world revealed to you. And I already knew, but I needed to reread it because I needed to, it's been 14 years. Yeah, it's been 14 years since I read this, or whatever it was released. And the sequel finally came out like a month ago. Next up is a romance, a hockey romance called Lucky Bounce by Kate Neri. For the first half of this book, I thought I was gonna give it 5 stars. It was delicious. The banter, the yearning, the falling in love, and the cuteness of the kid. And it's about a professional hockey player who falls in love with his biggest fan, and the fan is the teacher of the young girl. And he's a new parent, so that was interesting. Anyway, but the last half of it just kind of petered out, and the tension sort of went away, and it had an okay ending, but like the first half was so good that I still have to give it 4 stars. 3, 2, 1. Lily, I love you, but stop. I picked up Spy Family again for the first time in several months, and I got Lily, it's too hot. I got volume 7. This volume actually features all the secondary characters. They each get their own little chapter / adventure. And it was fun, and I really liked some of them, particularly Damien's character. It fleshed him out, but it fleshed, except for Yor, that guy can fuck off. It's not funny or cool to be in love with your sister, so stop it. Everyone watching is like, what? But yeah, this was fun, but it wasn't very consequential. And I was hopeful that the next book would actually get back to the plot and the main characters, which are the main draw for the series for me, and it did. So, but anyway, this one was fun, but I only gave it 4 stars. So next up is Murder Road. I talked about this a little bit in an earlier video, I think. I can't remember. But yeah, so this is a book about a couple in the 90s. They are on their honeymoon, and they are on this creepy road where they pick up a young she's a girl, she's on the side of the road, and she looks like scared. And they pick her up, and it turns out she's been stabbed, and by the time she gets to the hospital, but she dies. And then they're accused of the murder, and it turns out there's something spooky going on, and this is not the first murder that has happened on this road. I liked this book a lot. It's not my favorite Simone St. James, but I've given her last 2 books 5 stars, and this was only a 4. So back down to, I think it's the same rating I gave Broken Girls and her first book, the Haunting of Maddie Clare. Next up is The Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. This was a wild read. Like, honestly, it was a really fun thriller. This is the kind of thriller that I like. I still don't think it's my favorite, though. It was very twisty, very turny, very clever. It was emotional, but also it is not anywhere near like my love for Good Girl's Guide to Murder, because I love those characters and I love the structure of that series. So I think I am going to be getting rid of this one just because I don't have space for books on my shelf that I don't have affection for. Like, this was a fun time, but I'm not like, I don't love it. But yeah, it was wild. So if you like thrillers, this is a good one. I didn't even tell you what it was about. You should go in knowing nothing. That's fine. Okay, so next up is a book called Traitor's Blade by Sebastian de Castell. So this book has been around forever, and I just have never gotten around to reading it. I bought the Kindle edition in a sale last summer, and I finally got around to reading it, and it was really fun. It's a swashbuckling adventure story about this group of three men. It's sort of Three Musketeers-esque, but their organization has been disbanded and their king was murdered, and the country is in chaos because the dukes all did a coup because they like their lawless ways, and the king was good and righteous. It's funny, and I enjoyed it. So I will continue the series. Okay, next up, I finally got around to continuing the Vorkosigan Saga by Lois McMaster Bujold, and I read The Warrior's Apprentice, which is actually the first book the main character Miles appears in. The first two books, chronologically, not publishing order, are about his parents and how they meet and how he comes into the world. And then this one is about him. And I just had a really fun time with it. It wasn't as good as the other two, but it was a good first book, and I like the sort of like way we could see how smart and clever and calculating he was, but also like who he was as a person as he collects by accident all this power and then how he gets out of it. And like, I don't know, I don't want to give anything away, but it's worth your time. I knocked off a big chunker from my TBR that I've owned forever, and that is The Rise and Fall of Dodo by Neil Stephenson and Nicole Gallen. This is the first Neil Stephenson book that I've really liked, probably because Nicole Gallen was there to rein him in. But yeah, so this is a book about it gives it away in the synopsis, so I'm just going to give it away. It's a historical time traveling agency, but it's a little bit different because it does, as the title implies, it chronicles how they found the traveling agency and get the time travel going, and it has to do with witchcraft. It was the most creative time travel I've ever read, but it is very long, 752 pages or something like that, 42. And yeah, but it was good, but it was long. Okay, next up was an audiobook. This one has soured a little bit in my memory, but I had a fun time listening to it, so I'm sticking with my 4 stars, and that's Fantastic Land. This is a horror/thriller, but mostly horror, about a fictional theme park that is hit by a devastating hurricane, and the employees, 300 of them or so, tasked with looking over the park, and they're in storm shelters or whatever. After 2 or 3 days, they just start going to war with each other, and it is an fake oral history account, a journalistic look at how Fantastic Land, which is this big fake like tragedy, national tragedy, happened. And it sort of is a condemnation of humanity in its own way. It's very cynical because so many people get murdered. And yeah, anyway, it was good. Good audiobook. Okay, next up is a book that I don't have a physical copy of yet, but I very much enjoyed it. I initially rated it 4 stars, but I think I might bump it up to 4.5. Maybe 5 later. Lily Stop. That's the Rom-Commers by Catherine Center. This is my favorite Catherine Center book that I've read. I've now read 3, and it didn't have the weird cheesy ending, and I was so emotionally engaged the whole time. And it's sort of a love letter to romance as a genre and why it's important, but the chemistry between the 2 characters, who are both screenwriters, was amazing, and I really loved watching them get to know each other. Also, it was really funny. And the audiobook makes it even funnier. So don't, Lily. I feel like I should get a break from having to make Lily stop licking my books. Rom-Commers was great. She does that, by the way, to get my attention because she knows I don't want her to lick my books. So when she wants attention, she licks my books and chews them. Don't. And then my last 4-star book of the month was Paladin's Grace by T. Kingfisher. This is the first book in the Saint of Steel series. There are 4 of them. It's actually, though, the second book in her World of the White Rat books. Sword Heart was the first, which I read a couple months ago, and I really liked it. I liked this one even better, and it follows the main character. One of them is a perfumer, and she's great, but I loved the main character, Stephen, who is a paladin whose god has died, and the book opens with us watching as their god dies in their head. So it's essentially like this series is following these men who are grieving the loss of something very, very intrinsically important to them. And it's also a fantasy, so there's other stuff going on. Anyway, it was great. So now I did read The Age of Magical Overthinking, and I really liked it. I listened to the audiobook. It is essentially, it's Amanda Montell examining different forms of cognitive bias through the lens of her own life and through pop culture. And I read another book called The End of Bias, exploring this topic in much more detail, but this is a more personal look at it. And I enjoyed it. I did end it on a bit of a book high, and I bumped it up to 5. I think it's more accurate to round it down to 4, though, now that I think about it. But I still enjoyed myself. The very first 2 essays are the best, though. So it does go a little downhill from there. But I still enjoyed myself. I really like thinking about cognitive bias because it's very important for the world that we live in. Okay, now I have no more digital. So we're just going to go straight down the line. These are my 5s. So first up is Spy Family Volume 8. This is the first 5-star I've given since I think book 2. I just really liked it. The whole family ends up on a cruise, and the humor was back, and the emotional stakes were really there. I really think it finally did some very much needed work on, oh my God, what's her name? Hold on. Yor. Oh my God, I called Yuri Yor earlier. So I didn't mean to say Yor, I meant Yuri. Okay, Yor's awesome. It did some much needed work on Yor's character arc. And yeah, I just really like it, but I am very much ready for them to start moving the plot actually along and finding out things about each other and like actually falling in love now. But this was great. Okay, next up, Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I love this book. It's the last book in her series that starts with Part of Your World. This was another 5-star. Although I still don't think I liked it as much as Part of Your World, but yeah, this was great. It's about 2 people. I mean, the rom-com part of it is 2 people who have a curse, and they meet on a Reddit thread where everyone they date, then they break up and they meet the love of their lives. So they date each other to try to break their curse. But really, it's more about family trauma and guilt and a whole bunch of other really serious things, because the main character, she's had some serious childhood trauma and issues with her mom, and the other main character has to take custody of his siblings. So, but yeah, it was really good. I reread also The Drawing of the Three, which is book 2 in the Dark Tower. This is one of my favorite books of all time. I was a little bit dismayed to read it with fresh eyes. The last time I read it was a while ago, and I'm sad to say previous Ashley either didn't care to remember or you know, there was some homophobic stuff that really disappointed me, and it wasn't like meant to be from characters who were yucky. You know, one of the main characters who I love said something gross, and I was like, but the rest of the story is really good, and I just wish that Stephen King would go back and like re-edit this because it deserves it. But yeah, I still really love it. Okay, and the very last one we've got is Funny Story by Emily Henry. This is now my favorite Emily Henry book. Previously, it was Beach Read. I'm a Beach Read girly and a book lover's girl, but now I'm a Funny Story. And I just had a feeling that was going to happen when I read the summary. So these 2 are both dumped by their fiancés. Well, I don't think they're engaged, but she's definitely engaged to her fiancé, Peter. This is Daphne and Miles, and they get together. And so these 2 are up a creek, so they move in together while their exes are getting married. She was chewing on my Just for the Summer. I'm giving myself 10 extra seconds for that interruption that made me really mad. They are so cute together. I just felt every single feeling possible. Also, there's a secondary character named Ashley who is not a jerk, and they have a friendship, and she gets to have a friend, and then their friendship is so lovely. And then also, I love Miles. I think he's definitely my favorite Emily Henry hero, but he might be in my top 5 romance heroes of all time. I just loved him. He was so funny. 5 stars, favorite book of the month is Funny Story, Emily Henry. Sorry, I just got really mad at the cat for chewing my Just for the Summer book. She knows. She knows she's not supposed to do that. I am losing my voice. I want a nap. I want some tea. I want to turn my brain off. Coming up in June, so just as a heads up, I am expanding my upload schedule for the summer just to see if I can handle it and see what's going on, like see what my capacity is. And also in June, I will be switching up my format a little bit because instead of doing a monthly wrap up, I am once again partaking in something that I do every year in either June or April, because they have 30 days, where I read 30 books in 30 days. Now, as you can see, I read 35 books in 31 days this month, but it always feels a little bit different to do it where you've got every day scheduled and you have to finish a certain book per day than it does if you're just like reaching for things as you feel like it. So I am going to be doing weekly wrap-ups so I can talk about each book in depth and how the 30 books in 30 days is going and how that changes my reading experience, etc. They're not going to be vlogs, they are going to be wrap-ups, so just expect that. And then I am going to have several other videos, like a couple of reading vlogs I think uploaded, one that I've been working on for forever and it's just not happening, but I'm gonna make it happen. That's what's happening. And then in July, I am mood reading for the entire month of July, no set TBR, although I do have Summerween, so there's gonna be 2 Summerween reading vlogs. And then one of the vlogs that I'm planning on doing is how many subscription box books can I read in a month? So I really want to clean out my subscription box books, but at this, it's essentially mood reading to just have subscription box books be your TBR because I have so many at this point, which is why I need to clean them out. Anyway, if you've made it this far in the video, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. If you like the video, please leave me a like down below, subscribe if you wanna. And if you don't have anything to say about any of these books, although please, if you do, I love comments and I like engaging with them, then please leave me, I don't remember a thing in here that we could say. Leave me a door for the drawing of the 3. And I will see you guys in the next one. Okay, love you, bye.